So,
Yes,
this
sir.
is another edition of Wilmington Spotlight.
Yep.
I have my friend Mike on here today.
How we all doing? How we all doing?
We're
Thanks
doing
for
it.
having
We're
me,
doing
brother.
it. And
Yeah.
that's it. Spiky Mikey, as you know to some people. You got many different nicknames, but it's all because of all the different things you do. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk the real estate market first and foremost.
Yeah.
Obviously, big week that just happened with the Fed rate cuts
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. So the industry is definitely in a bit of a shift. I think
Shifting?
we're on the end of our, downward cycle on the upward cycle of where we want rates to be, which is actually down. So,
Yeah.
but what are you seeing out there as far as supply goes and as far as the market? Are you seeing still busyness or?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I see inventory coming up a little bit. I
Right.
actually see stuff sitting on the market a little longer than usual. I mean, I live in Methuen. I kind of pay attention to that market a little hotter.
Right.
A lot of little greater outside Boston, Wakefield, Stoneham, Malden, Medford, etc. I see stuff sitting a little longer. As far as the activity, I think there's a lot of people right now. It's because there was a thing where it's the people that were on the sidelines are saying, I'm just going to wait for the rates to come down. I'm just going to wait for the rates to come down. And then meanwhile, a little bit more inventory is coming up. The news hits that the rates are going to come down. The thing with that is, as you know,
Right.
The rates come down. We're gonna have to open the gates again
Right.
for a bull run, and people are gonna be out there overbidding, and there's gonna be lines around the block of the open houses.
Right.
Good for the realtors, can be frustrating for the buyer, But so it's a catch-22. It's like, do I wait for them to come down or try to get my paws onto something now and just refi later? So as our job is to call our buyers that have been sitting on the sidelines and doing that and say, listen, try to grab it now. If the second this thing goes from a 6 to a 5, that $600,000 house is probably going to go for over 7. So would you rather pay over for the house or just to pay a little bit higher rate right now and get a good price? So that's kind of that's kind of where I'm at. I kind of use my example when I got my home. That I went it wasn't the perfect house on the perfect street on the perfect block, got a decent rate, and put money into the kitchen, put money into the deck, and created the home that I actually wanted.
Right.
So you got to use some of those expertise too, some of those experiences, and just kind of like pass them along to your buyers.
Now that's important. You talked about Methuen, the areas you know well. It's important to have a realtor that works the area that they're in.
Yeah.
I think it's just better that you know the area. You know the different ways the markets are kind of flowing. You kind of see it. You can see the different trends that are going on in those areas.
You can. And, one thing that was taught to me when I first started, too, is the guy that mentored me for years and still continues to do so. He goes, Michael, you can learn a market in 10 minutes. He goes, so you say yes. And he goes, because you can. He goes, you tell whoever that's selling their house, you'll jump on their, whether it's Tingsboro, Tewksbury, and you look up in the past 6 months, every single home that sold, what was the list price? What did it sell for? And you could have an educated conversation with that seller
100%.
About their neighborhood in less than 10 minutes. So who's willing to put in the work. I'm going to put this down here.
So one of the things that, I always touch on with people is right there what you just said, and I want you to expand on it a little bit. The homework we do behind our jobs. So it took me 10 years to become a sales guy in the actual mortgage industry, and that comes from doing a lot of work in the back offices, right?
Yeah.
A lot of studying behind, like you said, a mentor. I had a couple great mentors that helped me out.
Yeah.
But real estate isn't as easy as just, throwing on a blazer, going out to a house and just selling a house, right? You know, and people think, you do a couple Instagram videos, you do a country, it's all set. It's actually been a really tough time for any new agents in the last couple of years because they've had to really, I guess, show their worth,
pivot,
work.
show value, and learn.
Right.
Keep learning.
Keep learning.
You turn on the news every day, there's something new in real estate.
Right.
Right? But my mentor, again, I'll bring him up again. He calls himself a student of real estate. He's been in this 16 years. He does absolutely amazing every single year, and he always feels like he still needs to learn.
Yeah, remain teachable, right?
Remain teachable. Be able to pivot with what's going on. I turned on the news yesterday, they're going down. You turn on the news today, they may be going up. Your job is to just stay as informed as you can be, to be able to pass it to your buyers, your sellers,
100%.
right? And you want to be able to show your value by showing, hey, listen, read my reviews. Hey, listen, follow the last transactions I've done. This is how I was able to do X, Y, and Z. How did you get money off list price? How did you get that buyer their home on their first try?
Right.
your communication, you gotta share with them your value. You know what I mean? So again, especially with everything going on with the lawsuits and this, that, and the other, at the end of the day, people are buying and selling real estate, right? And they're going to need someone that knows how to navigate the market and know how to navigate these things. Get in there and make those calls that a lot of agents are afraid to do.
Right.
Get on the phone and find out if the seller wants the buyer to keep their cat. I want to know about it, right?
Right.
And I know that sounds silly, but not enough buyer's agents are out there asking these questions. What if the seller doesn't want to close for 2 months? Why do you just automatically think a quicker close is the best close? And a lot of people aren't finding out these answers. So when they're writing these offers, don't know exactly what the seller wants. And that's, you bring them back to you showing your value. You've got to, real estate, I think buying and selling is going to happen every single day.
Of course.
Being able to adapt and literally know what a seller wants, know what a buyer wants, and be able to act as that role to make both parties happy. That's your job. If you think your job is to just throw on the blazer, get a lockbox and shake that thing up until the thing pops open the door and say, hey, do you like it? You're not going to last in the business.
You're not. And I think that comes from not just doing your homework, selling and knowing your values.
Yes.
By basically doing a lot of that research that is a little hidden behind the scenes, but along with that is communication is so key, and you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And availability. Like, you have to be able to communicate with people back and forth, not be afraid to pick up that phone, like you said.
Yeah.
Not be afraid to learn that new, caveat of our industry coming out, which is a constant thing for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just like the rate cut last week, for instance, the rate cut was priced in over 2.5 months ago. A lot of people don't realize that, right?
Yes.
We knew it was coming 2.5 months ago, right?
Yep.
What we saw during the meeting last week was the opposite of what the rest of the country saw, really.
Yes.
As a loan officer and a banker, we saw not a unanimous vote, so I didn't see everybody vote for it, and I also didn't hear anything about an October cut. So a lot of people didn't realize, but that already priced in rate, there's where you're seeing a bounce back now. Because now we're worried about October and maybe lower rates. What are we going to see before the end of the year? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had this conversation last night, and because of you, shared that conversation. God is my witness, all right? So last night, they said, well, now that the rates have come down, what are you going to see? I said, I reached out to Austin already, and he told me those went into effect last month. I go, the news is telling you this is a big to-do today, but this has already gone into effect, and people have already locked in 30-year fixes at 5.8, 5.9. Don't quote me on those exact numbers. But this has already happened, right? So, to kind of piggyback off of those things behind the scenes leading to you, when someone calls me, as the realtor, you don't always have all the answers, right?
Right.
You've got to be able to tell your seller, your buyer, hold tight. I got my lender on speed dial. I got my closing attorney on speed dial.
Right.
Hold tight. I'm going to get, whether it's to set up that three-way call, get those answers right away. And as a realtor, you're the producer, you're the orchestrator of this
100%
thing.
right.
I'm here to connect the dots, and then when you tell me you love something, it's on. Or you tell me it's time to sell it, it's on. I'm going to do my best to get you the most for that house under the terms you want. And I always tell my buyers as a joke, my job doesn't start till you tell me you like something,
right?
Because that's when I turn it up. We could look at real estate all day long, but when you tell me it's time, that's when I'm on the phone with the lender, calling you. That's when I'm calling the closing attorney. What could we get done here? I'm getting everybody and their grandparents involved in your purchase, and we're going to put together a team to try to knock this out of the park.
Right.
That's the stuff. And what you see, and when I first started doing real estate, is people trying to do these things on their own and not using the relationships they have, the lenders that know more than you do, the closing attorneys that have all the answers. You know what I mean? Realtors that have been in the business 20 plus years that have their own little savvy ways, being able to pick the brain, So those are the things that a lot of buyers and sellers, I think, don't think about when they think about getting an agent or even a lender. Like, you reach out to realtors and use your tools. There's a lot of people in this business, and you can gain a lot from it.
It's incredible. Building a team was actually one of the Tip Tuesdays we just did because it's so vital to have the entire complete package behind you when you're doing this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's an incredible process, and it's something we do on the day-to-day. It's the same idea behind anything else. I always people ask me banking questions a lot of times, and I'm like, no, I do mortgages 9 to 5. That's where I focus. I stay in that lane, right? I don't know as much about banking as the next guy, but I have a guy for that. And that's, I think, really important. I got a person that you can call.
Yeah.
Call this girl. She's the best attorney I know. Call this guy. He's the best, closer I know and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's just such a vital part of the process. And it really comes down to, and I definitely wanted to touch on this too, which is really important. And it's why we use these platforms, but it's about helping people, right? I think that's where the core of our job comes down to.
Absolutely.
Right? And so this is September. This is, recovery month.
Yep. Hell yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to do was get another realtor, and I obviously loan officer. And, I think one of the things I really enjoy about this business, and I do have a couple attorneys I know along with us, but we're in recovery ourselves. And that's one of the things we pull from that experience, right?
Yep.
And talk more about that. So serving people is really the idea behind making yourself better, getting better. That's one of the things that we teach. And so really when I got into this business, it came really natural to me. I don't know if you had the same experience, but it came natural to me wanting to help somebody. Right? Somebody that's not really necessarily in the best spot with knowledge or what they're looking to do here.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, one really important aspect of real estate is there has to be a ton of trust involved.
Ton of trust.
You're doing something you don't, if you get blessed, you do it a couple times in your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
You figure every couple of years you're going to call a team like us, right?
Yeah.
You're not doing it on the day-to-day.
No.
There's a couple investors out there we work with more often, but I guess that's really it, is a lot of times people have to call you in a moment of need. They say, what do I do here?
What do I do here? It's always when it's like the last minute.
Right. It's a lot of times the last minute.
Why'd you call me 30 days ago when I had this under control? But I thrive under pressure, man.
Right.
So I love that. Like, move quick. Where's Austin? Where's this? Get this one on the phone. Let's make, you started off with like recovery and helping people and the moving and the shaking. Like the moving and the shaking's in my blood. I love it. I come from a hospitality background. I was a bartender for most of my life. The Ritz-Carlton hotels, Capitol Grills, I could drop names, but it is what it is. Always loved helping people and serving people from when I was young. So moving forward. So bringing recovery into it, going on, 8 years sober next year. And,
congratulations. That's huge.
Thanks. I mean, it's one of those, every day is another gift to look at 8 years ago and think you'd be in here. Having these kind of conversations is a gift in itself, right? So every day is something new, and every day is another day to get up and see what the day is going to bring, But the helping people, man, that's it for me. It's I think you and I had this discussion. Someone asked me, what is it about real estate the passion that you have? And I do get fired up. I love talking about real estate. But I said, where is the passion? Is it the granite countertops? Is it the gold faucets? I do love that stuff. I do like that stuff. But where's the passion?
Right.
And, growing up, to get too deep here, but as a child, I bounced around a lot. I kind of had it tough as a child and, never really had real roots, if you will, and being able, you get comfortable at one house and then you're at the next one. And you look back and you go, you know what, maybe there is something there, because when I had these first-time home buyers and they get into a home and the looks on their faces, the emotion that they have, I think that's where my passion lies, is that I'm creating roots for people. Roots that I may have missed as a child. And that's not to take a jab at my family by any means. Right. I don't regret a day that didn't put, because that's what led me to today. And that's my driving force, is being able to create memories. You got up, I had a lady in Somerville. She lived there for 60 years and sold her 2-family home in Somerville. And when we presented the offers at the table, she immediately cried. The emotion was either A, we sold her house, there is a financial aspect to that, or B, that, her whole life was in there and now she's got a brand new chapter. And to see that, like you just changed someone's life.
Right.
And to their next chapter, knowing I had a next chapter. And I think it's a deeper level for me. It's a creating roots and creating positive change for people in real estate, that I take my recovery and I apply it to that, if that makes any sense. I'm able to, 100%. Is take my recovery and give back what was given to me. Be able to use my skills and things that have happened to me to be able to let other people shine and have stories and memories. And That's the part I love, man.
Yeah. And I've been in this business for about a decade now. And what I've noticed about some of the real successful types, it comes from a place of genuineness, honesty. Like they're just the real deal, like good people who care about their clients and their customers, and they fight for them. And like you mentioned, there's such an emotional connection with this whole process. This is where your family's going to live or your family's moving out of.
Yeah.
This is where you raise your family.
Yeah.
Like you said, this is the neighborhood your kids will go to school in.
Yeah.
There's just so many factors that play into real estate. When you're starting your career,
Absolutely.
This is where you're going to work down the street from it.
Yeah.
It's like there's just so many different aspects that go into people's lives, and there's nothing more connected, I really don't think, than where you live, where you come from. You know, it's your culture, it's your community, and that's starting that process with these people, which I think is just so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
You know, and
100%.
They need people in their corner they can trust that you know, they could be sitting on a couch 5 years from now. I always say that about what we do is they're gonna know, oh, Austin did the right thing for me back then. Now I see why he did it this way, or why he explained it then. I didn't get it then, but now I get it. Or, you know, the neighborhood that you're in, all of a sudden you learn to love it. I mean, that's my experience. I never thought about having kids when I bought the house. That wasn't my thought. Was like, these are the schools my kids will go to. These are the streets I'll drive up and down every day. Like, these are the neighbors I'll see.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful thing that is. I think it's such a, you know, it's such an emotional process too.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about that. And I think, you know, that's one of the things I never understood about real estate is there is a lot of passion behind every party involved in real estate, right?
Yes. And this is, you know, something that was told to me some years back is when they said, you know, eventually the real estate agent will be gone. Zillow tried it. All these, you know, I have a Zillow video.
Right.
Me and Zillow. Where they say that, you know, eventually the computer will take over the real estate agent's job.
Right.
Absolutely not. There is way too much emotion involved, too many hard conversations that go into buying real estate, consoling in real estate, trust in real estate, that, you know, we're there to keep the peace. We are there to deliver. We're there to put together the team. You know, as far as AI can go, I mean, we'll see what AI looks like in a year.
They say we're getting replaced too, right? We know.
But I'll tell you, man, you know, so many things can go on in a transaction where you just got to be there. You know, as a lender, late nights showing up at a certain buyer's house to close the deal.
That's right. I've been in houses at 10:30 plus.
I know you have.
Midnight plus.
I know. And yes, he has.
We've had to go down and do that. So those are the extra steps that I don't think AI would be able to do.
I don't think a MacBook's going to be able to do that. But again, could be premature. But again, our job, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of phone calls, a lot of emotion, a lot of things doing that's not your job, if you will. Like you get it's not my job. Everything from, you know, being someone's psychologist to running their errands to doing something for them to get things to happen. You know, that's the part of the job. You never know what it's going to bring, right? You never know. But if you're involved in it, man, just be along for the ride. I mean, it's a great place to be.
Yeah, the unofficial, you know, family therapist, the marriage counselor. There's just so many aspects of it where people are like, well, you know, what's going on? I mean, for me, usually I like to tell everybody that I want you to feel educated about this process, because at that point, you know, if you can teach it, you know it. And if you can do that, you're going to be much more, you know, comfortable with this process. It's the biggest thing you're going to buy. Most people's balance sheets, the house is the biggest aspect of their life, right? It's more expensive than your car, this, that, or the other thing, you know. For instance, I had a conversation the other day and somebody was asking about home insurance. They said home insurance. I said, look, as a human to human, this isn't where you want to save a couple bucks a month. No. This is your biggest asset, the most beautiful thing you're going to own. $7 to $8 a month versus you being able to pick up a phone, get on the phone with somebody like near you. Same with the insurance agent or the closing attorney. You know, there are these big firms like, you know, national carriers and brands for especially insurance and things like that where you can call a 1-800 number, fill it out online, probably get the cheapest premium. But the night something happens, you're in the middle of the night, you have a water main break in the house, like the whole thing's dripping out of the wall. You're going to want to text or call somebody like us, right?
Absolutely.
That's a crucial aspect of our business, is being able to really interact with the person and say, all right, well, what does this mean? I don't get it. Because a lot of times I've looked things up, right? Like you said, I've used the different tools of AI and things like that. I've read the whole thing and I'd be like, I don't know what any of that means. You know, I go through it and I'm like, whoa. So I think the realtor is one of the most important, because I tell people, let's say you're selling and buying a house. That happens a lot. People ask, can I do that same day? The answer is yes, by the way. And so they're selling and then buying their house. And they, pick the agent that their cousin knows that just got into the business. And I say, that can be a 6-figure mistake right there. They're like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, if that person undersells your home for about $50K, and then when you're in the bidding process, which you understand, they overbid by $50K, let's say, because they didn't do all the research. They didn't have the knowledge that we have and stuff of that nature. I said, you're looking at a drop in the hat right there on equity. You're losing $50K on the sale. You're putting in over $50K on the buy. I said, right there in a matter of seconds during those transactions, you've lost $100,000 in equity. And it's a 6-figure mistake. Yeah. It's crazy that people will, this is kind of like one of the most important things that we talked about, family. It's straining on you. It's a stressful process. You're going to want to be able to pick up a phone and call a guy like Mike, right?
Yeah. I mean,
it's crucial.
Finesse is a lot, We're finesse, and they throw that word out a little bit because it always comes down to that communication, right? You're going to have a lot of, if you're in a buy-sell situation where you need to sell something and then that needs to close on the same day because you need the money from the sale to get the house you're going to buy.
Exactly.
You need someone in your corner that's going to orchestrate these things, that's going to have the times lined up. Hey, if we close at 10 a.m., can you close this one at 2 p.m., right? You got to try to use the same attorney. Too many people go with, like a deer in headlights, just assuming it can all happen. Right. But you need someone there that's going to literally precision, making all the calls. Hey, listen, if we go on record on the sale at 10 a.m., I need that wire to come in by 1 because that's when the wire for the buy is going to come in. Austin, can you do that? Amanda, can you do that? I got my closing attorney, my lender on the phone. I've got other realtors cheering you on, going, hey, you got to figure it out yet? And you got to be able to just have these communications with the other agents, with their brokerage, and just make sure that you've got, all your T's across, all your I's are dotted, so you can create these transactions. And those are fun. Those can be fun.
That's incredible. The whole thing is a fun process too. I enjoy it. You can tell you enjoy it. I think that's one of the things that really helps us in our business.
Yeah.
Really giving back and doing all this. Now, I said that to somebody the other day. One of the best deals we do, and I talk about it all the time, is when somebody has turned their life around and they thought this was never possible, right? You said it's emotionally attached.
Yeah.
This is never possible for them. And we see it all the time. Yes. I see people that had the impossible in front of them do the impossible.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those really just like good feelings inside when you do it. Because it is. It's a business where things are moving in all directions. Everybody, like you just mentioned, on their team, whether it be the attorney, the real estate agent, the lender, the insurance agent, everybody's got a job to do.
Yes.
Right? And it's so vital that everybody knows what their job is, understands it, you know?
Yeah.
And keeps it moving for that person and that place. But like you said, when I see the impossible happen, one of the things I love to do, and I know you love this as well, is I love when someone calls me, like you said, a couple years prior. Call me up. Hey, this is what I want to do. This is my goal one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to work on credit. This is what I got. This is what I'm looking at. How do I make this impossible possible? Right?
Exactly.
It's one of the things you enjoy.
This is something I really enjoy. So what happens is when, working in recovery as well,
right,
with gentlemen that have lost, people that have lost everything, that are trying to get their lives back in order, and who literally think in their minds, home ownership is out of reach.
It's not for me.
It's not for me.
It's not where I belong.
It's out of reach.
Right.
I already messed up too much to be able to, that ship has sailed.
No American dream for them. Right.
Mentality.
No American dream. Right. They don't deserve it. But that's...
And they're not listening to the right informational sources for people to say, listen to me. Pick your head up. 8 years ago, I couldn't get a home. 8 years ago, I was struggling. 8 years ago, my credit was terrible. 8 years ago, I didn't stand a chance. 8 years later, I'm in home ownership. I help people buy homes on a regular basis. I help people sell homes on a regular basis. It can be done. It absolutely can be done. I use my own personal experience to deliver. To say, listen, Austin, right now, I know your credit score looks like this, but this is what we're going to do. You don't have to call a credit service. I'll show you how I got my credit from a 580 to an 805 in 1 year. I'll show you how I did it, and we're going to chip away at that. As far as home ownership, We're going to get you on some sort of 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, 1-year track. I want you to call Austin. We're going to just find out where we stand. We may not be standing in firm grounds just yet, but we're going to get you on right track. And we start that railroad track of how we're going to get to home ownership.
Right.
Not, my credit's bad. I've only been working for my job for 6 months. I messed things up because how I ended up in treatment and things that and the other. Now moving forward, we're going to tackle our credit. We're going to make sure we stay at a job for 2 years.
Right.
We're going to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And we're going to put you on a path to get to home ownership the same way I did. So I don't mind, for me, Austin, is I don't mind I like to use humility and staying humble and not forgetting where I came from.
Right.
Because where I came from and my struggles can help so many people get to that dream. Whether it's just fixing their credit or fixing their credit and owning a home. My job is to be able to take, where I was and be able to apply it and just share it with people to help them as well. If I keep my story in my pocket and don't tell anybody, I'm not helping anybody.
Right. We discussed that. We wanted to talk about that.
We wanted to talk about this today.
Well, it's not. The other thing is, too, is it's not just people that are in recovery. Sometimes it's a guy that took a shot or a woman that took a shot on a new business. Or somebody that's going through, like we said, something like their family was at one point stable, things were going really well, and, it didn't work out, the marriage maybe, and they might have kids, and they might have some certain situations where, they don't know where to start, right? And they don't know what's going to happen, and they have so many unknowns, I guess fears, right?
Yes.
And to be able to lighten that person up, say, no, wait, slow down, let's breathe for a second. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's talk about this. Now, not to say that you might be able to do it today, but let's start making a couple of the right choices, the right decisions. And here's how we'll coach you through this, because it might take us, 6 months, like you said, 9 months, a year. But it's possible, right? It's possible.
Exactly. I mean, and it's funny because we kind of shifted a little bit, but recovery, think about it. Think about what we just said.
Right.
It doesn't always have to be substance abuse it's financial recovery, right?
Could be financial recovery.
Someone just was like, man, I started a new business.
Right.
The thing tanked. And now I owe all this money.
Right.
My credit's bad. How am I going to get back on track? Right. And as a realtor, and as a lender, you just can get answers to these things.
Right.
So when I say recovery, like anyone that reaches out to me, going through what I went through, I'm able to delegate. I'm able to make the right calls and say, listen, I've been there in one way, shape, or form. Hold tight. I'm going to make a couple calls, and let's see what the next step is for you so we can start moving forward and not going backwards. And it's just like, it's, again, going through recovery the way I did, you did.
Right.
Put yourself in a situation where, I know it puts me in these situations where I'm always looking for a way I can help someone, right? Because you see it. Well, listen, man, if you listen to me for a minute, I can help you fix X, Y, and Z. Let me make this call, that call, send an email. But getting people to just, all types of people, like people are just afraid to say, I could use a hand real quick, right?
To give the hopeless hope, right? And then people say, well, any salesman can give the hopeless hope, but behind genuineness, behind what we've experienced, using the experiences of people like us who have turned it around from the brink of disasters, and been able to say to you, look, here's why you should have hope. Because we're not homeowners 10 years ago.
Yep.
Nowadays, we're homeowners, and there's a reason behind that,
True, and at the beginning, Austin, I'm not going to lie, I would feel sometimes, I'm like, is it appropriate to share what I went through with these that I just met? Is it? Right? And so you think of these things.
You do.
But I'm always looking for an opportunity to be able to share that. Because when you share something like that, it's like someone coming to you and saying, hey, man, I just lost a family member or something. And then all of a sudden they just shared something with you that makes them feel so like this. Immediately I adapt to that problem and say, not to match it, but to let them know that I'm on the same playing field, or somebody that I can relate to them. If someone looks at me and says, well, man, you know what, my credit's like a high 5, and and I lost. I kind of went through a divorce, and
there's
I
some
lost
shame
everything.
Associated there, or maybe
shame, guilt. All of a sudden, I throw myself at them and say, I don't hit it right off the bat saying, maybe there was a point in my life where I didn't have a home and my credit was low, but I will find a way to tell you, I understand you. I see you.
Right.
I see you. because I can help. I've been there, and this is why it's appropriate for me to share that with you.
That's where I want to wrap right there. I see you because I've heard of realtors, I've heard of loan officers being too good for the deal, and it's something I will never, ever believe in because the humans in the deal are always the same number. 1 or 2 humans behind the deal, right?
Yeah.
3 or 4 humans. There's always a number of human beings behind it.
Yes.
And I think that is big, that in our industry, no matter who you are, there is a realtor, a loan officer, there's people willing to help.
Yes.
And I think that right there is a huge part of what we do. I mean, obviously, do we take the big deals? Of course, we'll take the big deals. I'll do any deal that's like, a large, nice payoff deal. I'll also work with, like you said, somebody who has lost their hope. I'm never, that's the beauty of being able to remember where you come from is we're never too good for a deal. I don't care.
No.
I'm not going to be too good. Like, I'll do $100,000 deal. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It doesn't.
Well, that's why for me, and every year in my recovery, I feel it's more important to be louder.
Right.
Because if I'm quiet, I mentioned to you I was at a wedding last night, and I mentioned it. We were talking real estate the whole time at the table for about minimum 25 minutes, and there was a window of opportunity where it made sense to share where I was 8 years ago, and it all of a sudden I looked at the people in front of me. It's almost like a light bulb went off. The girl across me shared how she's 8 months in recovery, and like it was a sigh of relief that she thought. You know what I mean? That we were opposite kind of people.
She was alone in the room.
Alone in the room at the table with these people that all sat down together.
Right.
And now all of a sudden she hears my story and it was just like this connection. If I didn't say that, it would have just been a transactional relationship last night. It would have been like, hey, if you ever need me, reach out. Here's my card. If you ever need me to help you sell your house, let me know. But it became, oh my God, he can relate to us. He knows us. He's been where I am. And now you've got that relationship where now, yes, you could help with the sale of a home, but if they ever need anything recovery related you can relate to them. I set up a couple meetings and things that only I would know at the table, right? So again, when I say be louder every year, share it. Say, like, break your own stigma, right? Because people need to hear it. And it's like every situation you put yourself in now, someone knows somebody that has struggled from alcohol and drugs, has struggled with substance abuse, has struggled with mental health issues. There's somebody at that table that knows somebody or has affected 100%. Them directly. We tend to forget. I never want to forget. Me personally, I never want to forget where I came from.
Right.
And I want to be louder every year so those opportunities. And the universe is a very amazing way of taking care of things.
Right.
Because the moment you share something like this and the universe has a way of rewarding you and making, you get that next lead call or that sale that came out of nowhere. And I think there is a lot of truth to that. And
100%.
That's my favorite part of it.
Recovery and real estate. I wanted to do this for September. I wanted to bring somebody that has found a great amount of success in their life.
Thank you.
Wouldn't say that about myself too, but I've built up like a different lifestyle that Saturday night I'm also at a wedding. Funny you mentioned it. And I said to the girl across the table, I said, "Look, you want my champagne? I don't want it right now."
Yeah.
Kid to my left said, "Oh, I could see the sigh of relief." He's like, "Me neither. Here you go." And I have no idea why he was, and come to find out he was taking it easy and taking a break, and he wasn't quite sure where he was going with it, but it was nice to have an ally sitting right next to him. I broke the ice, right? He didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
And you're right, because I never forget where I come from, just like, you said, because sometimes it might not look that way to people these days.
It doesn't.
On the number of things I do in my community, I love this community. I fight hard for it, but sometimes people have no idea.
No.
They have no idea where my life story had come from, and I think it's important, especially, not just in September. It is Recovery Month, but I want to give that guy hope, not just the home buyers, but somebody that might want to rebuild everything, and then be in a podcast studio. You know what I mean? Like it's all possible.
It's all possible.
It's incredible, right?
It's all possible.
Mike, really, really appreciate you coming on today.
It's been awesome, man.
It's been a great time.
So glad we met when we did.
Absolutely.
And having each other as a resource, unbelievably grateful to have you as a friend.
All right. That's
I'm willing
the truth
to do this
right there.
whenever, man. Like, We'll talk shop and
having a friend. And
we got
I think
Stoneham on Saturday. We've got
That's right.
Recovery Fest on the 28th.
Yep.
Come on down. We got the advisors table
Right.
will be there. Advanced table will be there. We're gonna guest speakers outside. It's gonna be an awesome day.
It's great. We got a couple great events coming up. We get to be involved with both the community, all sorts of different people. Like you said, the universe has a weird way of doing things sometimes.
It really does.
Right? And
Connection's
I'm really glad.
everything.
Connection is everything.
Connection
Genuine,
is everything.
Honest connection. Right? And I'm really glad I met you, Mike. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Austin.
Thanks. We'll see you soon, Mike.